Hi, I'm Amy and this is A Star Reads and welcome to my Sunday Sum Up. We are here at the 7th of November and I can't believe how fast this month is going already. I mean, I know it's only a week into the month, but it's already a week into the month, if you know what I mean. And this is like my ramping up to get to the end of the month for school. I do have a couple of classes in December, like right at the beginning, but most of my classes will be pretty much done in November. So I'm like, gotta get everything done, and I'm also in that mode where I'm starting to feel like, okay, don't feel like doing any more work. I'm just tired of it. And so I am taking things one day at a time. Last month I wanted to read a bunch, but I actually didn't have the time to read that much. And this month I'm having a different problem. I don't feel like reading. And so I'm not really giving myself a hard time about it because I got a lot going on, and what I do read, I'm just trying to enjoy the process. So I'll be talking about the 2 books that I finished this week, and I did enjoy reading those. And so it was nice to kind of take my time. But I do have a book that I need to finish by next Thursday, and that is Arctic Dreams. Luckily, I contacted my nonfiction book club and nobody else had finished the book. So they were all like, let's move it a week out. And I don't think I have read any more since I last updated you, which I was on page 128. So I need to get moving on this. I really need to get moving on this. So this is gonna be my focus until my book club on Thursday. And I've got another book I'm currently working on, but I can't tell you about that one, but I'm enjoying it. Audiobooks. I don't feel like listening to audiobooks right now. I had started Emma and I listened to like 4 chapters and I was enjoying that. I started Illuminate because I never finished that book yet. And I really would rather listen to that audiobook while reading the physical book. I can see that I'm not going to get as much enjoyment out of the audiobook without looking at the book at the same time. I'm just reading one book at a time right now, which is something I don't normally do, and it's going well. So we're going to keep it at that, because next month, December, I have to read 12 books, and I'll probably actually have to read more than 12 books because I do need to read this alongside those 12 books. And there may be others that I need to read alongside those 12 books, but this one for sure. I feel like I'm kind of mentally prepping for December. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So in this video, I will be doing the book reviews for the 2 books that I read this week, and I will do my Believathon choice for the next week for you, which I'm really excited about because, well, you'll see. And let's see, is there anything else? I think that's it. And I already told you about the books I read, so I did it all in advance. All right, so it is November 3rd, and I have finished my first book of the month, which is Fairest by Marissa Meyer. This is the 3.5 book in the Lunar Chronicles series, and I enjoyed this so much more than I was expecting to. I wasn't too concerned about this being the villain origin story, because I don't mind that so much, but I just didn't think I would feel very strongly about this, and I loved it. I'm giving it 4.5 stars, which is the same rating I gave Scarlet, which is the highest I've rated in this series so far. It was so hard though. Like, it's not one of those stories where you read it and you're like, man, this was so fun to read, or it was so great. It was more like, wow, that's why Levana is the way she is. And not to give her any excuses, but Levana is royalty. So she's always been given every privilege and luxury you could possibly ask. Nobody can say no to her. She also had a ton of trauma in her childhood, which she never recovered from. She never got any help for. And then also, like, that trauma translated into the hatred of her physical self. And then of course there's the whole concept of her having magic from a very young age that she can use to manipulate people and things around her. And of course, if you've never gotten help for all the issues you have, you don't have the correct kind of support or get the emotional support that you need, you're gonna do bad things. Like, you're gonna do bad, and I'm not saying it's okay, because she's obviously a really bad person, but it's so complicated. It's so complicated. And I love books like that because villains are mostly, unless they're actual creatures or something like that, villains are people, and people, as screwed up and flawed as they may be, they're still people who've had childhoods, who've had experiences, and things that have shaped the decisions they make today. I don't ever want to say that that's an excuse for making really poor decisions or doing really awful things to people. It's not an excuse, but it gives you so much more of an understanding of that person and why they're doing the things they do. And I find that interesting. So if you like books like that, then I think you'd enjoy this. But if you do not like villain origin story, if you want to just think of the villain as being a horrible person, then don't read this book. But I don't know, I find it fascinating to learn more about the person behind the horror, because she is a genuinely horrible, horrible person. But why is that? There were some really not YA scenes in here. I mean, some pretty extreme subject matter. And I think this was definitely the most complex of all the books we've read in the Lunar Chronicles series so far. So this one's more triggering than, say, some of the other books that you might have read. And so be aware of that. Look up trigger warnings for Fairest, because there are moments in this that are very not okay. Not okay. I couldn't put it down. I was really interested in learning more about this part of the story, which makes me even more excited to go into winter. I've got all the pieces, I'm ready to put them all together, and I can't wait for the end of this series because I think it's gonna be incredible. So I'm hoping that winter's gonna be my favorite of all the books, because I can't see why it wouldn't be. I am sure that Danielle and I will have things to talk about when it comes to this book. So stay tuned for our Lunaralong discussion about Cress and Fairest this upcoming Sunday. And if you have strong opinions, bring them with you. Put them in the discussion, because I would love to hear what you guys think. Because yeah, this could be a very polarizing book, absolutely. Which I think is awesome. Okay, so some days just feel a little longer than others. School is exhausting, it's so exhausting. Rewarding, sure, but exhausting. So today I wanted to give myself a little treat for making it through the day. And things that are fun for me are things like deciding what my next Believathon book is going to be. So let's find out what I'm going to be reading for week 2. I'm very excited. Okay, so I'm going to do my random number generator and clicking that 1 through 30. 24, okay, 24. Oh, read a 5-star prediction. Oh, that's fantastic. A book type you have that is so appealing. Follow the hype and trust your gut feeling. Oh, what do I think is going to be a middle grade that I'm going to love, love, love? 5-star prediction. So this was a pretty easy choice for me. The book that I have been wanting to read for such a long time. Everybody's talked about it. It's not necessarily everybody's favorite, but a lot of people I know love it, or at least enjoy it. I'm gonna go with Pages & Co., Tilly and the Book Wanderers. I am super excited about this. And hey, it also works for the book cover book club as well, because it has a little clock on the cover. So I'm actually hitting that prompt twice this month. I'm really excited about this. It's about a young girl named Tilly, and her mother died at some point, but she lives with her grandparents and they have a bookshop, which, I mean, lucky girl. And at one point, all of her favorite characters from books start showing up in the bookshop, like actually coming out of the books and being in the bookshop or something like that. And I just love the concept. Anytime I get to read a book about books, I love it anyways, but then it just sounds like so much fun. And I have thought for a very long time that this would be a 5-star book for me. And I'm gonna give it a try and see if it is 5 stars. Fingers crossed. November 6th, and yesterday on the 5th I finished my second book for the month, which is The Borrowers by Mary Norton, and this one's actually an illustrated copy by Michael Hague. And so it has all these little pretty illustrations. On the inside, there's a lot of different illustrations as well. This was really enjoyable. This is a classic children's book, and it's about these people called the borrowers, and they're really teeny little people. They live under the floor or in objects. Like sometimes they'll live in the mantle, or they'll live in a harpsichord or things like that. And they're called the borrowers because they don't steal, they borrow things. So they borrow different little pieces like watches and spoons and bottles and whatnot that they use to live off of. This particular family lives in the kitchen or underneath the kitchen, so they have food all day long, but other borrowers that live like in the breakfast room or in different areas are limited to being able to eat breakfast food if that's the only thing that's brought into the room at that time. And it was really cute and really fun, and I'm glad that I read it. I'm gonna give it a 3.5, and to me a 3.5 is a solid rating. It's a good book. I feel a little bad rating it 3.5 though, only because so many people loved it so much. Like everybody was commenting on the borrowers and loved this book. I want to preface with 3.5 is not a low rating to me. It's a good rating. It's just that I feel like I might have enjoyed it a little bit more if I was a child when I had first read it. There would have been that nostalgic factor for me. There were elements of this that were a little slow moving, like it wasn't as exciting as I may have wanted it to be, or I would have liked a little more depth to it. But for a children's book, it was perfectly done. I loved the use of imagination that Mary Norton had for thinking about this, and it was fun reading the little foreword by her, because you got to see where her brain was when she was writing this story. Her childhood actually influenced her in writing this story because she always daydreamed about little teeny people and things like that. So that was really cool. I also think that I would really enjoy this book even more if I was actually reading it to children, because there's something special about the process of sharing something with someone else. And this is the kind of book that would be more exciting as an adult if I got to share it with a child who gets the excitement from it that maybe I'm not necessarily getting from it as an adult on my own, but through them, through their eyes, it's a much more enjoyable experience, if that makes sense. I feel like there's examples of this type of story nowadays that may have a little more action or a little more excitement. So without that nostalgic feel or without that child eye, I wanted a little bit more, that's all. There is a show, I think a series about the borrowers that was a British show. I think there's some others. There's one with John Goodman is what I had heard. And so I'm like excited to see the adaptations. Some stories translate even better when you can see them. And I did really enjoy this. So if you love classic children's stories, this is absolutely a classic. And I'll have a copy of this in my classroom because I think this will be a lot of fun to share with my students. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see my sum ups. I am just loving this style, but I am also in the process of working on my Great British Bake Off series. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out now. I love it so much. It is the new joy in my life. So I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like the Great British Bake Off, I think it's still a fun way to be giving book recommendations. So go ahead and check that out. I'll link it up here, and I will see you later. Bye.